Welcome back to another episode of the Inkwell Gamers podcast. Today we are continuing with our set 4 review, where we basically go through all of the cards of the new set and evaluate them based on how good we think they are in the competitive setting. And so for this set, we're basically cutting out all of the vanilla cards, so basically all of the cards that don't have any additional abilities, and picking right back up with Ruby. And so if this is your first set review, welcome. We have a grading scale that we go by, and if you want to refer back to it, it's actually one of our pinned posts on our Instagram page, Inkwell Gamers, but I will just go through it very quickly here. Or actually, Dalton, why don't you do that?
Yeah, so we have S, A, B, C, and D as our tiers. The S tier is... These are just the best cards in the set. You'll pretty much see play of this card in every single deck that has that ink color in it. A really good example of this right now is Diablo. He's just he might be the best card in the game, and he's in every single Emerald deck.
Yeah.
The next one is A. These are really powerful cards, but they might not see play in every deck. They might not always be ubiquitous, but they carry a really high power level. So something like Beast Tragic Hero was probably once the S staple kind of card, but now it gets cut a little bit sometimes, but it's still a really strong card. Then we have Bs. These are solid role players due to cost and ink ability. So a lot of your shift targets kind of fall into this range a little bit. Or these are also like pretty good cards that you might not see a lot of copies of just because they're more expensive and uninkable. Then we have C's. These are cards that are kind of playable, just in niche applications, something like Prince Eric, the Ruby Prince Eric from the previous set. You don't see that card very often. You sometimes see it in Ruby Amber decks as maybe a 2 or 3 of. And then we have the D's, which are just not playable constructed cards. What's our
Healing
go-to?
Glow.
That's our go-to.
Ever
Healing
since
Glow.
set 1, that's the poster child for D's.
Yep, it didn't see play in set 1, and it has yet to see play still. So these are the unplayable filler.
Yep. All right, so with that being said, let's just jump right in, starting with Beast Wounded. Why don't you walk us through this one?
Alright, so Beast Wounded is a 3-cost inkable character, is a 2/6 that quests for 2, and it has That Hurts. This character enters play with 4 damage. So it is on its surface a 3 ink cost 2/2 that quests for 2. That's not very good. But what it does is it curves perfectly into Rapunzel gifted with healing, which is a really strong card. And yeah, I'm going to give this one a C. I think it might see play in one specific deck, and that is the Ruby Amber decks. It has to be paired up with the healing effects like Rapunzel or Julieta, I think is the other one, right? Otherwise, you're just overpaying for this character.
I'm going to argue with you there. I actually have it as an A, and I get that...
Whoa.
I know. I get that it fits into only the Ruby Amber deck because, like you said, it pairs with the healing synergies. But I feel like it's unfair to give it a C just because it fits only into that deck. Because if you put it into the perspective of looking at Bucky, for example, Bucky isn't played in the Emerald Amber deck. It's played in the Emerald Steel deck, and just because it's played in that one deck doesn't mean that Bucky's a C. You would grade Bucky higher than that, and so therefore I am grading Beast higher than that.
Bucky is also like the best card in those decks, whereas this is just...
It's part of that deck's whole game plan is to do like the healing and the drawing of the cards, basically. And that is literally what this card fits right into. It's part of the engine.
Yeah, but we have the 2-cost Mulan that we will see, and we already have, was it Mother Gothel? The two, the 1-cost Mulan and the 2-cost Mother Gothel, and those are just better curve-wise because they cost less. So I think this one is a little more replaceable than the other ones, just because
Well, Mulan curves into Julieta, and like you said, this one curves into Rapunzel, and like Mulan is just basically a less impactful card, which I know that we're going to get to because it's obviously in this set and color, but Mulan is drawing you less cards than this one would draw with Rapunzel. So
that's true.
Yeah, I'll argue that.
We'll settle in a B.
I'm not settling, but we can just move on and agree to disagree.
Yeah, I still think it's a C. Have you ever played against this card?
Yeah, I think so.
Was it Tyler?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the only person I might have seen ever play this card.
I mean, I just feel like we have seen people play more of like the more popular decks, but that doesn't mean that in that particular deck that this card isn't popular. Whatever. All right, moving on. So next we have Faju, Mulan's father. He is an inkable 2-drop, 0/4, quests for 1, has 2 abilities, War Injury, this character can't challenge, and Head of the Household, where you exert him to ready chosen character named Mulan. She can't quest for the rest of this turn. I gave him a C. I think that it depends too much on having Mulan in play, and yes, it could curve with the 1-cost Mulan, but if you don't have Mulan as your opening play, but you have this, it's essentially just a sitting duck. So.
Yep, I gave it a D. It reminds me of some of the Emerald cards that are just like, they just are like 1-2, like the Flynn Riders or the Curse Merfolks or the Cheshire Cats. That quest, and then they're not very strong, so they don't take out the opponent's character necessarily, except for this has no redeeming qualities, so I don't think this one will ever see play.
Yeah.
Alright, next, we have Flynn Rider, Frenemy, 2-cost inkable character, is a 2/2, quest for 1, it has Narrow Advantage. At the start of your turn, if you have a character in play with more strength than each opposing character, gain 3 lore. What do you think, Dana?
I gave this one an A. I think it competes really well against the smaller aggressive decks, and if you don't have a response to it to take care of it early on, it could quickly make the game run away from you. So I've gotten played against with this card a couple of times, and unless I had a nice response, it gained like 9 lore against me. So
yeah, this card in combination with another card we'll talk about later is just a really threatening 2-cost, 3-cost curve. So I gave this one an A as well. It is the most threatening 2-drop that the Ruby aggressive and mid-range decks can play. As a Sapphire Ruby player, it is the card I want to see the least. So yeah, it is very dangerous to leave him play for 2 turns. So it racks up the lore quickly.
yeah, for sure. All right, next we have Goofy Super Goof, inkable 4-drop, 2/4, quests for 1, has Rush, and Super Peanut powers. Whenever this character challenges another character, gain 2 lore. I have it as a B. I honestly thought it was going to see more play than what it is. When it first came out, I feel like people were trying it out, but it's kind of died off since then. It is pretty nice that it doesn't have to necessarily banish a character, just challenge it, but it still is a weaker Rush character when you have Maui the next turn to play.
Yeah, I'll give this one a C. It just doesn't have good enough stats to challenge anything in a meaningful way. That being said, no, I'm going to give it a B. I'll give it a B. Yeah, it doesn't have great stats, but I still think really aggressive Ruby decks could make use of this. We just don't have very many of those. Mm-hmm. But and the one that we do have, it's competing with Merlin Goat, which is a tough one to compete with. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, next we have Hercules, Clumsy Kid, 3-cost and inkable, 3/3, quest for 1 with Rush. It is the Rafiki from the first set. That card used to be an A. It is now a C, so this one is also probably a C.
I have it as a C with literally the same notes as you. So we can just move on with that. Kind of disappointing though, because I did like that card in set 1. But all right, next we have Hercules Daring Demigod, uninkable 5 cost, 7/3 rush reckless. Basically a worse Maui, and it's uninkable, and will most likely die to whatever it's challenging just because the willpower is smaller than Maui's. So D.
I'm going to give it a C. I can see this played as maybe a one of in some Ruby decks just because it cleanly answers the Queen's Castle.
Damn it, you took my... That's actually what I have. I cut myself off, but I said, however, it can take out the Queen's Castle. But yeah, I still don't unfortunately think it's that great, but yep. I see.
Yeah, fringe marginal play.
Yep.
All right, next we have Li Shang, Valorous General, 3 cost, inkable, 3/2. It is a Floodborn, so it has shift. You have to discard a character card. It quests for 1, and it has Lead the Charge. Your characters with 4 strength or more get +1 lore. I'm just going to give this one a C. The juice is not worth the squeeze. You don't really want to discard your character card to play a 3/2.
That dies to...
That dies to literally everything and provides really no card advantage. You can do that with Diablo because the return is just insane. Can't do that with this one.
Yeah. D for me, actually. I just feel like, similar to what you said, it just dies to everything. And I feel like its second ability isn't as great with it needing to have 4 strength or more. I feel like you just have a more narrow pool that would affect. So I don't see it getting played at all. All right, next we have Lumiere, Fiery Friend, a inkable 2 cost, 2/2, quests for 1, and has Fervent Address. Your other characters get +1 strength. I actually gave this one a B. I like how his ability isn't limited to like when he enters or leaves or is exerted, whatever. It's just simple, so you can just put him out and he just stays there and has a constant...
Yep, it's a static ability. It just stays there the whole time. I'm going to give this one a B. I think that there are some cards that are just kind of weak to like Madame Medusa or Brawl, and this help shores up those cards' weaknesses, but it's better than French playable, I guess, but I don't know, you have to have a reason to want this in your deck, I think.
Yeah.
Alright, so next one, we have an interesting one. We have Mulan, Elite Archer, is a 6 cost inkable, 2/6, that quests for 2 with Shift 5, and it has Straight Shooter. When you play this character, if you use Shift to play her, she gets +3 strength this turn, and Triple Shot. During your turn, whenever this character deals damage to another character in a challenge, deal the same amount of damage to up to 2 other chosen characters. So I think that this is one of the cards that when it was first released was super hyped, and the hype has pretty much all died down. If you just play this card for 6 ink, it is just not effective. You have to shift, and the shift targets really aren't that great. So I just have it as a C, honestly.
I will admit that I originally had it as an A, but I probably will bump it down to a B. I do think that the abilities can be pretty powerful when they're put in play. It has gotten played against me, but in a casual setting, and it's been pretty annoying to deal with. However, I feel like if you're going to have like a straight shift ability, like you pay ink to play, I feel like the shift has to be much cheaper. Like you can't just decrease the cost by 1. Otherwise that's just, it's not efficient.
Yeah, like all the good shift characters, they're either really good the turn you play them pretty much, or they have a cheap shift cost, or they're, I think the other scenario is like Cinderella, where they're kind of unbeatable for some decks when they're in play. Cinderella, you can't do anything if you're playing against a steel deck. This one, if you just play it out on turn 6, it's just so slow, so I don't like it that much.
Yeah. All right, next we have Mulan, Enemy of Entanglement, inkable 2 cost, 1/3, quests for 1, and whenever you play an action, this character gets +2 attack this turn. I gave this one a D. I think the ability is too circumstantial for something that might not occur as often as you would like. Like, you would have to play a lot of actions for this to, like, really hit and be efficient, you know?
Yep, you can just play with Smee or Madam Mim Snake and have a 2-cost 3/3 without any work. So yeah, this is a D to me.
Yeah.
Next we have Mulan, Injured Soldier. It is a 1-cost thinkable 2/3. Quest for 1, it has Battle Wound. This character enters play with 2 damage. This one I do like as a B. I think it's probably the most efficient one to do with Rapunzel just because it's the cheapest, but it just isn't going to see play in any other deck, so I just have it as a B.
I'm going to stick with my stance like I did for Beast, so for consistency I'm going to keep her at an A. It's just, yeah, it pairs really well with Julieta in those Ruby Amber decks, so A for me. All right. Namari, Heir of Fang, an uninkable 3-cost 2/3 quest for 1 and has 2 weapon fighting. During your turn, whenever this character deals damage to another character in a challenge, you may deal the same amount of damage to another chosen character. I gave this one a B. She's uninkable, but her ability has the potential to give you like a 2-for-1. And even if you use cards to bump up her strength like Lumiere, it makes her even better. So, because you can deal more damage to 2 characters. I don't know. I kind of like it. So, B.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one a B too. I don't think this one sees a lot of play, but I think it's kind of underexplored. There's Lumiere, there's Merlin Crab, and there's an item that we'll get to in this color that pump its strength up. And the difference between 3 and 6 ink, comparing this to Mulan, is just so much. So I think this one could see some play at some point for sure. Alright, next we have Noi, Acrobatic Baby. 4-cost thinkable 4/4, quest for 1 with fancy footwork. Whenever you play in action, this character takes no damage from challenges this turn. I don't really get Noi as a character, I have to admit, and I don't like this card either. So I'm just going to give it a D.
You don't get her as a character like in the canonically.
I just don't. I guess I just don't really care for her that much.
All right, fair. I have it as a C. I think it sounds nice in theory, but similar to the Mulan that we just talked about, you would have to play a high amount of actions to make it work, and it's just not feasible. So, C. All right, next we have Pegasus Flying Steed. Inkable 2-drop, 3/1, evasive, quest for 1. I have it as a B. It's cheap, it's inkable. It takes care of both Diablo and Pegasus. I know we're not necessarily seeing a lot of Pegasus as much as we are Diablo, but nonetheless.
But it is Pegasus.
Well, the Emerald. You know which one I'm talking about. The Emerald one. But, yeah, so B.
Yeah, I like this one. I also think it's a B. It takes care of Diablos, like you said, but it's also just an evasive threat in aggressive decks as well as kind of pairing well with Flynn Rider to have a high strength character early in the game.
Moving on, we have Raya, Fierce Protector, inkable 3-drop, 3/3, quests for 1, and has Don't Cross Me. Whenever this character challenges another character, gain 1 lore for each other damaged character you have in play. I have a B. I think it would work in the Ruby Amber decks where you have characters that come into play with damage, but might not be very common, and it's not like an essential part for that deck. I don't know. So just B, maybe C.
I'm giving it a D. I don't think it's very good.
I was a little too positive,
You
I
need
think.
like 3... To want to play this card over like a better 3-drop, you need like a lot of damaged characters to be in play, and ways to ready it, which the ways to ready it really aren't very good either. And I don't know, I just don't like it very much.
That's fair.
So next we have Raya, Guardian of the Dragon Gem. It is an equal 4-cost character, 3/3, quest for 2, and it has We Have to Come Together. When you play this character, ready chosen character of yours at a location, they can't quest for the rest of the turn. I'm going to give this one a D. I think if it said ready chosen character of yours, then that would actually be
Like take out the location part?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because then you could play like Pinocchios and the ones that quest for like 3. And this is a good way to protect that. But as it is, it's too conditional, so it's just not good enough.
Yep. I originally had it as a C, but I'll bump it down to a D. Not much to say with that one, so moving on. Sisu Daring Visitor, uninkable 3 cost, 1/1, quests for 1, has evasive, and also Bring On the Heat. When you play this character, banish chosen opposing character with 1 strength or less. I gave this one a B minus. I feel like this one saw more play at the beginning of a set as a way to banish the 1-drop Diablo or the 1-drop Pegasus before you shift. And I'm sure that there are other cards too that it really targeted, but I feel like the Emerald Steel decks were kind of the enemy at the beginning for the Ruby Sapphire ones that was trying to play this out. So yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I feel like it's lost its traction.
Yeah, I think it's a B. It is going to depend on the format and the deck you're playing. If you have like Ice Block as modifiers for your opponent's characters, or you just need that early defense, or if a lot of 1-strength characters become more prevalent, then the value in this goes up, but it's never gonna... I don't think it's ever really gonna be like the best card in your deck.
Yeah, that's fair.
So then we have Sisu Emboldened Warrior. It is a 3-cost inkable 1/4 that quests for 2 with Surge of Power. This character gets +1 strength for each card in your opponent's hand. I'm going to give this one an A. This has really good stats. It's inkable. It's relatively cheap. And it quests for 2. This is like everything the Beast wants to be, in my opinion.
Oh, really?
This is everything that your 3-cost Beast would wish it was.
Oh, the 3-cost one?
Yeah, the one that we graded.
Yeah. I thought you were... Well, when you said your Beast, I thought you were talking about my Steel Beast. And I was
no, obviously.
I don't see any correlation, but...
No.
Okay, yeah. I was a little bit harsher. I gave it a B. I still recognize that it's a good card. I mean, it doesn't get Grab Your Sorted or Let the Storm Rage Dawn or anything like that. So, I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah. The best Ruby 3-drop, probably.
That's fair. Okay. All right. And then the last Sisu in this color of this set, we have Empowered Sibling, uninkable 8 costs, 5/4, quests for 3, shifts for 6. And when you play this character, you banish all opposing characters with 2 strength or less. Very powerful card. Expensive and uninkable, but very powerful. It poses a really good questing threat, and I mean, when played against the low to the ground aggressive decks, it just can completely board wipe them. So I don't know if I would give it an S, because I don't know if it's getting played in every Ruby deck. It very well could be, but at least an A.
I'm going to give it an A, and I'm actually going to go back to Sisu Emboldened Warrior and give that one an S, because currently I think it is seen play in every Ruby deck. I played it in Ruby Sapphire. It's one of the best cards in Ruby Amethyst, so I'm going to give that one an S. And then I'm just going to give this one an A. It is a really powerful one-sided board wipe. It is conditional, but it is also like a pretty good standalone threat in Chicago. There was a game that I really had no business winning, but I just played a Sisu on turn 8 and turn 9 in the mirror, and they just never answered the Sisus somehow, and I just quested for a bunch. So it being a 3-lore character is very, very strong.
Yeah.
Alright, next we have Tong, Survivor. It is a 4-cost uninkable 3/6 with Reckless. This is a card that if it was a inkable card, it could be like a C+, but I think it's just a D.
Yeah, D. Uninkable, less strength than Maui, which is probably going to get played the next turn if you have it anyway. And you don't have to wait for Maui to challenge like you do for this one, because he has Rush too. So
yeah,
D.
Too slow, not inkable.
Too slow. Next we have Tuk Tuk, Lively Partner, inkable 3 costs, 2/3, quests for 1, has evasive, and also on a roll. When you play this character, you may move him and one of your other characters to the same location for free. The other characters get +2 strength this turn. What do you think of this one?
I'm going to give this one like a C, but there is definitely room for it to get moved up to a B just based on the locations that we end up getting. I think it's a decent threat by itself. It's evasive, it's inkable, it has okay stats, it has a nice pump ability, and it moves your characters to something like the Queen's Castle for free, which is really good, but I just don't think there's enough locations for this card to do enough consistently.
Yeah, I actually give it a B. I think that even if you aren't playing the location deck, the stat line and inkability alone makes it a pretty good answer to Diablo while also surviving with Diablo. So, yeah, it doesn't trade with Pegasus unless you bump it up its strength, like with something like Lumiere or whatever. But I don't think Pegasus is getting played as much as it did at the beginning of the set. So, yeah, B.
Alright, next we have A Pirate's Life. It is a 6-cost inkable song. It has Sing Together 6. And it says each opponent loses 2 lore and you gain 2 lore. I'm just going to give this one a D. If it was like 3 and 3, I think we'd be talking. But 2 and 2, just for the opportunity of singing for 6 is just way too much. Like, whatever you're using to sing this can probably just quest for 2 lore by itself most of the time. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't like this one that much.
I gave it a D as well. I feel like it's one of those bait cards we talked about earlier in our set review where it seems like it's good, but it isn't worth playing because it's not worth the cost. So, yeah. I think it would be great in multiplayer, but obviously we're grading these on the assumption of 1v1. So,
yeah.
Okay. Next, we have a song that I know you like, and that's Be King Undisputed. Uninkable 4-cost, where each opponent chooses and banishes one of their characters. I gave this one an A. I think although it's uninkable, it can still sing and get around characters with ward. Obviously, if there's nothing else on the board that they wouldn't. I mean, heck, there are times where I have like a Bucky in play, and then I might have like a Bucky in my hand, and they play this card and I have like another powerful character on board, like, and I will just choose my Bucky if I'm being honest, because I'm just gonna like play another one the next turn. But nonetheless, it can get around the ward characters, so I like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a B. Like a high B though. This is sometimes like one of the best cards that you can have because it is a song, and songs are just naturally very strong. And it can hit word characters like Ariel or Prince John, Bucky, what have you. The issue with this card is, for one, that's uninkable. But for 2 is that if your opponent has 2 characters, it's always going to hit the one that you don't want it to hit. Mm-hmm. So it isn't always doing what you want it to do. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
But it's still a good card.
Speaking of good cards,
we have Brawl. It is a 3-cost inkable action. Banish chosen character with cost 2 or less. I don't even know if this is really a good card. It's just a card that the Ruby decks have to play. So
it's seen a lot of play.
Yeah. It's the only answer to Diablo, and one of the only good answers to Diablo. And when you have Ice Block, it scales pretty well, but it is often a lot of time just kind of slow and inefficient. But I right now I guess it's like an A or an S because all the Ruby decks are playing it.
Yeah. Okay, next we have Imperial Proclamation, inkable 1-cost item, where whenever one of your characters challenges another character, you may pay 1 less for the next character you play this turn. Basically, it's a worse Lantern for Ruby, in my opinion, because you're paying 1 less for the next character, but you have to challenge in order to trigger it. So I gave it a C and not a D because I recognize that it is a cheap inkable item that could just go into an item deck. So.
Yep, it's a cheap inkable item that gets banished to Flaversham, which it's probably is its best quality. I'm gonna give it a C because sometimes you can play it on like turn 4 or 5 and challenge like 3 of their characters, and then that in a sense ramps you quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But that is like very specific, and once your opponent knows that this is part of your game plan, it's not that hard to play around it.
Makes sense.
So next card is Medallion Weights. This is a 2-cost thinkable card. It is an item, it has discipline and strength. You exert it and pay 2 ink. Chosen character gets +2 strength this turn. Whenever they challenge another character this turn, you may draw a card. I'm going to give this one a C. I kind of have hope for this potentially in some Ruby decks with maybe Scar or the Namari that we talked about earlier, but I don't have high hopes.
I gave it a C as well. I had a hard time with it because I don't like that you have to pay 2 ink to activate its ability, but I do think that it works really well with some of the other cards I talked about earlier, like the Namari, where you also get a draw card too, so pretty nice.
It's also probably one of the best cards in Draft or Sealed, so.
That's fair. All right, next we have the Plank, an uninkable 3-cost item, and it has Walk, where you pay 2 and banish the item to choose 1. So
Get it because you walk the plank?
Yes. Oh my gosh. If you're going to make like a dad joke, you got to have it be better than that.
It was all about the timing, though.
I don't know, I guess. You choose 1. You ban it. You banish chosen hero character or already chosen villain character, and they can't quest for the rest of the turn. Yeah, I gave this a D. It is uninkable, kind of expensive for an item that isn't that great, and the options you get are just not useful at all right now. So, D.
I'm going to give this one like a C-, and the reason being is that these items that can banish themselves to have like an impact on the board kind of interest me when I'm playing with Tamatoa, because you can use this to just kind of banish all of their hero characters, or you can use it to challenge a character and then ready your Tamatoa or Maleficent or something and challenge another one. So I think it has just the slightest application.
That's fair. I'll give you that. That's fair.
Alright, next we have Vitalosphere as a 1-cost inkable item. It has Extract of Ruby. You pay 1 and banish this item. A chosen character gains Rush and +2 strength this turn. I'm going to give this one like a high C, because I think some item decks will just run it, mainly because it helps kill the Queen's Castle. When you have Maui, or maybe the Queen's Castle has damage from another character, and this just helps take care of it the turn you play a Medusa or something. Mm-hmm. So, and it's, you can rebuy it with Tamatoa and banish it with Flavershame. So, yeah, I just have it as a C.
Yeah, that's fair. I gave it a B. I just think it's cheap. It's inkable. Like you said, it's being used in the item decks right now. And, yeah, its ability can be pretty useful at times, and otherwise it's there for either ink or just being counted as another one of your items for Tamatoa. So not a lot of downside, I feel like.
Yep.
All right. We have 2 cards left, and those are our locations for this color. We have the Snuggly Dunk. I was going to say Dunkling.
The Dunkling.
Snuggly Duckling. It is a 2-cost inkable location, 9 willpower, 2 cost to move. And whenever a character with 3 strength or more challenges another character while here, you gain 1 lore. If the challenging character has 6 strength or more, you gain 3 lore instead. I want to hear your thoughts about this.
I have it as a D. I want this card to be good because it kind of seems like it could be, because it is just really hard to take out for being a 2-cost location, having 9 willpower.
Yeah.
But, I mean, unless you have Tuk or a way to move here cheaply, you're not really getting paid back on that for a while. So, yeah, I just have as a D. I want it to be good. I might try to build around it at some point. I'm just not a believer.
I gave it a C only for the fact that it gains you lore, but it's conditional. It's cheap and inkable, and it has that huge willpower that you talked about. I think if the move cost was 1, I actually would like it a lot more, but the move cost is just a little too expensive. But
I agree.
Yeah, I think that 9 willpower is pretty hard to get rid of, so. See?
And the last one we have is Training Grounds. It is a 1-cost inkable location, has a move cost of 1, a willpower of 5, and it has Strength of the Mind. You can pay 1, and chosen character here gets +1 strength this turn, so you can move a character here and then pay 3 ink to give it +3 strength and challenge another character. That you just have to pay so much ink in order to make your character trade up, and you could just play another character probably instead. I don't know, and it's not that hard to take out. It's also not really threatening your opponent in any major way, so it's a D.
Yeah, I gave it a D as well. I just feel like it's, not only is it easy to get rid of, but it just doesn't gain you lore, which I think is a huge draw for playing locations, is if those give you lore. So because this doesn't, and the ability really isn't impactful, I just don't think it's efficient enough to play. So
yeah, if it also gave, I don't know, like the Cove, the Emerald location is just so much better than this, giving that extra toughness.
yeah, and you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, you don't have to, you just have to move there. It's just so much better. So,
yeah, I agree. Well, that concludes our set review for Ruby. We made good time on that, flew through that. But thank you guys for joining us. We will finish up our set review with Sapphire and Steel in the next 2 weeks. And in the meantime, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will catch up with you guys next time.
Have a wonderful weekend, Illumineers.